When millionaire Marcus Thorne steps into Nia Caldwell's cab after 3 years of silence, old secrets ignite a forbidden love neither ever forgot. But with jealous rivals and sabotage threatening everything, will love be enough to rebuild what they lost? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The pristine marble floors of the Thorne mansion gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. Nia Caldwell moved quietly through the West Wing, pushing her cleaning cart with practiced ease. At 25, she had perfected the art of being invisible in the homes of the wealthy. "Miss Caldwell?" The deep voice startled her. She turned to find Marcus Thorne standing in the hallway, his tall frame silhouetted against the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the manicured gardens. "Mr. Thorne, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were home." Nia tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "I can come back later." "No need." Marcus stepped closer, his expensive cologne filling the space between them. "Actually, I was hoping to see you." Nia's heart skipped. In the 8 months she'd worked as the live-in maid at the Thorne estate, these moments, brief, unexpected encounters with the young millionaire, had become something she looked forward to, though she'd never admit it. "Is there something you need, sir?" Marcus ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture that made him seem less like the ruthless CEO of Thorne Architectural Designs and more like the 30-year-old man he was. "I was wondering if you'd join me for tea." "In the library?" Nia blinked in surprise. "Tea? Unless you're too busy." His eyes, always intense, searched her face. "No, I can make time." She smoothed her uniform, suddenly aware of the contrast between her simple work clothes and his tailored suit. An hour later, Nia sat across from Marcus in the library, a room she usually only entered to dust. The shelves of leather-bound books surrounded them like silent witnesses, as steam rose from delicate porcelain cups. "You prefer it with honey, not sugar," Marcus said, sliding her cup across the antique table. "I've noticed." Nia's eyes widened slightly. "I notice how I take my tea." A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. "I notice more than people think." This became their ritual over the next months. Tea in the library. At first weekly, then almost nightly. Always after Nia finished her duties. Always when the house was quiet. They talked about books, about the city, about dreams. "I never wanted to run a company," Marcus confessed one night, the rain pattering against the windows. "My father built Thorne Designs from nothing. When he died, I had no choice." "We all have choices," Nia said softly. Marcus looked at her then, really looked at her. "Do we? Sometimes I think our paths are set for us. Then we find new paths." Nia's voice was gentle but firm. "My grandmother taught me that." Marcus leaned forward. "Tell me about her." And so Nia did. She told him about growing up in East Houston, about her parents' death when she was 16, about her grandmother raising her and her younger brother James, about the stroke that left her grandmother needing expensive care, which was why Nia worked 2 jobs before finding the live-in position at the Thorne estate. What she didn't tell him was how these evening conversations had become the center of her world. How she counted the hours until she could sit across from him, how the mere sound of his voice made her feel seen in a way she never had before. One night, Marcus seemed troubled. He paced the library, barely touching his tea. "Is everything all right?" Nia asked. He stopped, facing the window. "The board wants me to announce my engagement to Vanessa Morgan." Nia felt as if all the air had been sucked from the room. Vanessa Morgan, daughter of Marcus's largest investor, the elegant socialite whose face graced the society pages. "Congratulations," she managed to say. Marcus turned, his expression unreadable. "It's not official. It's what's expected. The merger of 2 families with similar interests." "Like in the old days," Nia said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Arranged marriages to strengthen kingdoms." "Exactly." He moved closer, sitting beside her on the sofa. "But what if the king wants someone else?" Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything unsaid hung between them. Marcus's hand moved toward hers, trembling slightly. Their fingers were inches apart. The library door swung open. "Marcus, darling, here you are." Vanessa Morgan swept into the room, a vision in designer clothes. Her eyes landed on Nia, and her perfect smile dimmed. "Oh, I didn't realize you had company." Her tone made it clear that Nia wasn't company at all. "Miss Caldwell and I were just discussing some household matters," Marcus said, standing quickly. "Of course." Vanessa's smile was back, brilliant and cold. "Well, don't let me interrupt. I just came to remind you about dinner with Daddy tomorrow. The club at 7. After she left, the magic of the evening was shattered. Nia stood, smoothing her uniform. "I should finish my rounds, Mr. Thorne." He flinched at the formality. "Nia, please." "Good night, sir." That night, Nia lay awake in her small room in the staff quarters, tears sliding silently down her face. What had she been thinking? That a man like Marcus Thorne could ever see her as more than the help, that their late-night conversations meant anything beyond a wealthy man's boredom. The next day passed in a blur of duties. Nia avoided the library, avoided anywhere she might run into Marcus, but fate had other plans. As she polished the grand staircase, voices drifted from the sitting room. Vanessa's laugh, high and tinkling. "Really, Marcus, I don't understand why you keep her around. There are more qualified housekeepers." "Nia is excellent at her job." Marcus's voice was tight. "Nia, you're on a first-name basis with the help." Vanessa's tone was mocking. "Oh, darling, please tell me you haven't developed some little fantasy about her. She'll never be anything more than the maid. She doesn't belong in our world, and she knows it." Nia froze, the cloth falling from her hand. "That's enough." Marcus sounded angry. "It's sweet, really," Vanessa continued. "But let's be realistic. The board would have a fit if you brought someone like her to company functions. Can you imagine? Meet my wife. She used to scrub my toilets." Nia didn't wait to hear Marcus's response. Her decision was made before she reached her room. By midnight, she had packed her few belongings. She left her uniform folded neatly on the bed with a simple note. "I resign my position. Thank you for the opportunity." No forwarding address, no explanation. She couldn't bear to face him, to see the pity in his eyes, or worse, to find out that Vanessa was right. As the taxi drove her away from the mansion, rain began to fall, matching the tears that streamed down her face. Behind her, the Thorne estate grew smaller in the distance, along with all her foolish dreams. 3 years passed. Nia's life changed dramatically after her grandmother's death. Now 28, she juggled 2 jobs to maintain the small apartment she shared with her 19-year-old brother James, who was working his way through community college. The cab driving job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Night shifts meant better tips, and Nia had learned to handle herself with difficult passengers. She kept a photo of her grandmother on the dashboard for protection and strength. Tonight, the rain pounded Houston with unusual force. Traffic crawled along the slick streets, headlights reflecting off the wet pavement. Nia had been driving for 6 hours straight, and fatigue pulled at her. "Just 2 more fares," she muttered to herself, wiping condensation from the windshield. Then home. She pulled up to the curb outside one of Houston's most exclusive restaurants, where a tall figure stood under the awning, shielding himself from the downpour. Her heart nearly stopped when the back door opened. Marcus Thorne slid into her cab, his expensive suit slightly damp despite his efforts. He was looking down, shaking water from his umbrella. "River Oaks, 1400 Willow Street," he said without looking up. Nia's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, her knuckles turned white. For a moment she considered simply driving away, pretending she hadn't recognized him, that her heart wasn't pounding in her chest. Instead, she put the car in drive. "Yes, sir." At the sound of her voice, Marcus's head snapped up. Their eyes met in the rearview mirror. 3 years fell away in an instant. "Nia?" His voice was barely a whisper. She forced herself to focus on the road ahead. "Good evening, Mr. Thorne. Pull over." When she didn't immediately comply, his voice grew firmer. "Pull over now." Nia signaled and eased the cab to the curb. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm as they sat in silence. 3 years, Marcus finally said. "You disappeared. No warning, no goodbye." Nia stared straight ahead. "I left a resignation letter. 2 sentences is not a letter." His voice rose with emotion. "Do you have any idea what it was like? To wake up and find you gone? To have no way to reach you, to explain—" "Explain what?" Nia turned to face him now, years of hurt bubbling to the surface. "That I was just the help, that I could never be part of your world." I heard her, Marcus. I heard everything Vanessa said that day. Understanding dawned on his face. "And you heard me defend you." "I heard enough." Nia turned back to the wheel. "Now, would you like me to take you home, or would you prefer another driver?" Marcus leaned forward. "I never married her." The simple statement hung in the air between them. Nia's breath caught. "That's not my business, Mr. Thorne. The engagement the board wanted never happened. Vanessa and I are just business associates now." His voice softened. "There was only ever one woman I wanted to share my tea with at midnight." A car honked behind them, breaking the moment. Nia pulled back into traffic, her mind racing. The Marcus she knew was still there, behind those eyes that had somehow grown both harder and sadder. But she wasn't the same Nia. The naive girl who dreamed of a fairy tale had been replaced by a woman who fought for every penny, who carried the weight of her brother's future on her shoulders. "Your address?" she asked, her voice professional. Marcus sat back, his expression closing. "The original one I gave you." They drove in silence, the rain creating a barrier between past and present. When they arrived at the gates of his River Oaks mansion, smaller than the family estate but still impressive, Nia stopped the car. Marcus paid the fare, adding a generous tip. His hand lingered as he passed her the money. "It wasn't a coincidence, was it?" Nia asked suddenly. "You getting into my cab tonight?" A small smile played at his lips. "I notice more than people think, remember?" Before she could respond, he was gone, disappearing into the rain toward his front door. Nia sat motionless, the meter off, her heart racing. How had he found her? Why now, after all this time? As she drove away, she knew with absolute certainty that this wasn't the end of their story. It was perhaps only the beginning of a new chapter. In her small apartment across town, James was waiting up, textbooks spread across their kitchen table. "How was work?" he asked, pushing his glasses up his nose. Nia hung her wet jacket by the door. "Interesting, very interesting. You look like you've seen a ghost," James observed. She smiled faintly. "Maybe I have." That night, Nia dreamed of marble floors and leather-bound books, of tea with honey and conversations that stretched until dawn. And for the first time in 3 years, the dream didn't feel like a painful memory. It felt like a door, slowly creaking open again. The morning after their unexpected reunion, Nia couldn't shake Marcus from her thoughts. She moved mechanically through her shift at Rosie's diner, pouring coffee and taking orders, while her mind replayed every moment in the cab. "Earth to Nia!" Rosie, the 60-year-old owner, snapped her fingers. "Table 5's been waiting on their check for 10 minutes. "Sorry," Nia mumbled, grabbing the bill from the register. Rosie studied her with knowing eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost, honey." Nia smiled weakly. "That's exactly what James said last night." "Well, whoever he is, he's got you walking in circles." Rosie patted her shoulder. "Just don't let it affect my customers." By the time her shift ended at 2, Nia was exhausted. She had just enough time to go home, shower, and catch a few hours of sleep before her evening cab shift. As she walked to the bus stop, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I hope this is still your number. We have unfinished business. Marcus." Nia froze on the sidewalk, staring at the screen. How had he gotten her number? She hesitated, then typed back, "How did you find me?" The response came immediately. "I never stopped looking." Her heart pounded as she read those 4 simple words. She didn't reply, tucking the phone back into her pocket as the bus arrived. But those words echoed in her mind all the way home. In her small apartment, Nia found James sprawled on the couch, fast asleep with an engineering textbook on his chest. She smiled, covering him with a blanket before heading to the shower. Her brother had grown into a responsible young man, working part-time and maintaining excellent grades. He was her pride, her reason for pushing through exhaustion day after day. Under the warm spray of water, Nia allowed herself to think about Marcus. 3 years ago, she'd left without a proper goodbye because the pain had been too raw, the humiliation too great. Now, with the distance of time, she wondered if she'd been too hasty. But what did it matter? They belonged to different worlds. Whatever had sparked between them during those midnight conversations couldn't survive in the real world. She'd learned that lesson the hard way. Her phone buzzed again as she was drying her hair. Another text from Marcus. "Have dinner with me tomorrow. Just to talk." Nia stared at the message for a long time before replying. "I work double shifts on Thursdays." His response, "Friday then. I'll wait as long as it takes." She didn't answer. Instead, she climbed into bed, determined to get some rest before her night shift. But sleep eluded her as memories of the Thorne mansion, of leather-bound books and honey-sweetened tea flooded her mind. Across town, in his sleek downtown office, Marcus Thorne stared out at the Houston skyline. The city lights glittered against the darkening sky, but his mind was elsewhere. "Mr. Thorne?" His assistant knocked softly. "The Thompson brothers are waiting in the conference room." Marcus nodded, straightening his tie. "Tell them I'll be right there." He glanced down at his phone. No response from Nia, but he'd meant what he said. He would wait. 3 years of searching, of wondering what had happened to her, had taught him patience. The meeting with the Thompson brothers, potential clients for a new downtown development, dragged on for hours. Marcus maintained his reputation as a focused, ruthless businessman, but inside, His thoughts kept drifting to a certain cab driver, with eyes that had once looked at him like he was more than his bank account. When the meeting finally ended, his assistant handed him a folder. The background check you requested on James Caldwell came back. Marcus flipped through the pages. 19 years old, engineering student at Houston Community College, excellent grades, part-time job at a local hardware store. And you're sure he's her brother? Yes, sir. Lives with Nia Caldwell at the address you found. Marcus closed the folder. Thank you, Diana. That'll be all for today. After his assistant left, Marcus unlocked his desk drawer and pulled out a worn piece of paper, Nia's resignation note from 3 years ago. He'd kept it all this time, a reminder of what he'd lost through his own hesitation. The next evening, Nia started her cab shift with a sense of unease. Every time she picked up a fare near the business district, she found herself scanning the sidewalks for a tall figure in a tailored suit. Just after 9, her dispatcher sent her to pick up a passenger at Houston Memorial Hospital. Nia pulled up to the entrance, expecting a patient or visitor. Instead, a young man in hospital scrubs slid into the back seat. James? Nia twisted around in shock. What are you doing here? I thought you were working at the hardware store tonight. Her brother grinned sheepishly. Change of plans. Can you take me to this address? He handed her a slip of paper. Nia glanced at it and frowned. This is in River Oaks. What's going on? I got a job interview. Last-minute thing. James's expression was innocent. Too innocent. Nia's eyes narrowed. At 9:30 at night, in River Oaks. It's for a security system installation. The owner works late hours. James met her gaze steadily. It pays twice what I make at the hardware store, Nia. We need the money. Nia couldn't argue with that. Between her brother's tuition, their rent, and the lingering medical bills from their grandmother's care, they were barely making ends meet. Fine, she sighed, putting the car in drive. But I'm waiting outside during this interview. As they drove, James fidgeted in the back seat. So, anything interesting happen at work lately? Nia's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Why do you ask? No reason. He looked out the window. Just making conversation. They drove in silence after that, Nia's suspicion growing with every mile. When they finally turned onto a tree-lined street of elegant homes, her stomach dropped. The address James had given her was 1400 Willow Street, Marcus Thorne's house. She pulled up to the curb and turned to face her brother. James Caldwell, what have you done? Before he could answer, the front door of the house opened and Marcus stepped out onto the porch. He was dressed casually in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, a far cry from his usual business attire. You set me up, Nia accused her brother. James had the grace to look guilty. He called me at the store yesterday, said he was an old friend of yours. And you just went along with it, without asking me? He explained everything, Nia. James's voice softened. About how you worked for him, how you left suddenly. He said he's been looking for you for 3 years. Nia closed her eyes, fighting back tears of frustration. Get out of my cab. Nia, please. Now, James. Her brother sighed, opening the door. Just hear him out. That's all I'm asking. As James walked toward the house, Marcus came down the path to meet him. They exchanged a few words. Then James went inside while Marcus approached the cab. Nia rolled down her window just enough to speak. Using my brother to trick me. That's low, even for a billionaire. Millionaire, Marcus corrected. And I prefer to think of it as creative problem-solving. Despite herself, Nia felt a smile tugging at her lips. She quickly suppressed it. What do you want, Marcus? Dinner. He gestured toward the house. Nothing fancy. Just some takeout and conversation. I'm working. Call your dispatcher. Take a break. His eyes softened. Please, Nia. 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. Nia looked at him. Really looked at him for the first time since their reunion. The Marcus she'd known 3 years ago had been guarded, carrying the weight of his family name with a certain detachment. This Marcus seemed more open, more determined. But the eyes were the same. Those eyes that had always seen her, really seen her when she'd felt invisible to the rest of the world. 1 hour, she finally agreed, and then I'm taking my brother home. Marcus's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. That's all I need. Inside the house, Nia was surprised by the simplicity. While clearly expensive, the decor lacked the cold opulence of the Thorne family mansion. This place felt almost lived in. So your brother's in the kitchen, destroying my attempt at dinner, Marcus said, leading her through the foyer. You cook now? Nia raised an eyebrow. I try. His smile was self-deprecating. I had to learn a few basics after Mrs. Patterson retired. Mrs. Patterson had been the Thorne family cook for decades. Nia had worked alongside her many times. She retired. I can't imagine her ever leaving that kitchen. Reluctantly, and only after training me to make 5 dishes that wouldn't embarrass the Thorne name. Marcus chuckled. I'm afraid spaghetti is the limit of my culinary skills tonight. In the kitchen, James was setting the table, looking completely at ease. Hope you're hungry, sis. Mr. Thorne made enough for an army. Marcus, he corrected. Please. The domesticity of the scene, her brother setting a table in Marcus Thorne's kitchen while pasta sauce simmered on the stove, was so unexpected that Nia felt dizzy. This wasn't how she'd imagined their next meeting. She'd prepared herself for his boardroom persona, for the cold efficiency of a man who always got what he wanted. She wasn't prepared for this. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. James carried most of the conversation, talking about his engineering classes and his plans for the future. Marcus listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions about James's studies. Have you considered the intern program at Thorne Designs? Marcus asked. We have an engineering division that works closely with our architects. James's eyes widened. That program is incredibly competitive. It is, Marcus agreed, but we're always looking for talented students. I could arrange an interview. Nia set down her fork. No. Both men looked at her in surprise. No, James repeated. We don't need charity, Nia said firmly. If James wants to apply for that internship, he can do it on his own merits. Marcus studied her face. It wouldn't be charity, Nia. From what James has told me, he's more than qualified. Then he can apply through the proper channels, like everyone else. Her tone left no room for argument. After a moment, Marcus nodded. You're right, I apologize. James looked between them, confusion clear on his face. Okay, what exactly happened between you two? Because this, he gestured at the tension crackling in the air, is definitely not just a former employer and employee catching up. Your sister made me realize I had walls around my heart, Marcus said simply. And when I finally wanted to let someone in, she was gone. Nia stared at him, speechless. The directness of his answer, the raw honesty in his voice stripped away her defenses. James whistled low. Wow. Okay then. He stood up. I think I need to use the bathroom, which is probably on the other side of this very large house, far away from this conversation. After James left, silence filled the kitchen. Nia traced the pattern on the tablecloth with her finger, unable to meet Marcus's gaze. Why didn't you say goodbye? He finally asked, his voice low. Nia looked up. I heard Vanessa that day, about me being just the help, about how I could never be part of your world. And you believed her, instead of trusting what was between us. There was nothing between us, Marcus. Nia shook her head. Just conversations over tea. You never once indicated, I was going to. His interruption was gentle but firm. That night, before Vanessa interrupted us, I was going to tell you how I felt. Nia's heart pounded. And how was that? I was falling in love with you. The simple declaration hung in the air between them. With your strength, your kindness, your way of seeing beauty in small moments. Nia felt tears stinging her eyes. You never said anything. I was afraid. Marcus reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of hers. I'd never felt that way before. And yes, I worried about what people would say, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew how cruel their words could be. I wanted to protect you from that. I didn't need protection, Nia said. I needed honesty. And now? His eyes searched hers. What do you need now, Nia? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. It was her dispatcher, wondering why she'd been idle for so long. I have to get back to work. Nia stood, grateful for the interruption. James and I need to go. Marcus nodded, disappointment clear on his face. I understand. He walked them to the door, where James conveniently remembered he'd left his jacket in the kitchen, leaving them alone again. Thank you for dinner, Nia said formally. This isn't over, Nia. Marcus's voice was quiet, but determined. I let you walk away once without fighting for you. I won't make that mistake again. Their eyes met, and for a moment Nia allowed herself to remember how it felt during those midnight conversations, seen, valued, understood, in a way she'd never experienced before or since. Good night, Marcus. She turned away before he could see the conflict in her eyes. In the cab, James waited until they were several blocks away before speaking. He's in love with you. Still, Nia kept her eyes on the road. It's complicated. It's really not. James leaned forward. He looked at you like you hung the moon, Nia. Do you know how rare that is? He's a client, James, that's all. Bull. Her brother's voice was unusually firm. I saw your face when he talked about those tea meetings. Whatever was between you then is still there, Nia sighed. Even if that were true, we're from different worlds. His life is board meetings and million-dollar deals. Mine is double shifts and discount groceries. So, Grandma always said love doesn't care about bank accounts. Nia smiled sadly. Grandma also said to protect your heart from men who can break it without even trying. The next morning, Nia arrived at Rosie's diner to find a delivery man waiting with a package. Nia Caldwell? He asked, holding out a small box. Inside was a delicate porcelain teacup with a note. Some things are worth waiting for, even if it's just tea. M. Rosie peered over her shoulder. Secret admirer? Nia quickly put the cup back in its box. Just an old friend. Throughout her shift, Nia found her thoughts drifting to Marcus. The teacup was from the set they'd used during their library conversations, a small, meaningful gesture that spoke volumes. When she finished work, she was surprised to find Marcus himself leaning against his car in the diner's parking lot. Are you stalking me now? She asked, though there was no real anger in her voice. Resourcefulness, remember? His smile was warm. I thought you might need a ride home. I take the bus. I know. He opened the passenger door. But the storm they're forecasting is supposed to hit in the next hour. Let me drive you just this once. As if on cue, thunder rumbled in the distance. Nia looked up at the darkening sky, then back at Marcus's hopeful face. Just a ride home, she relented. That's all. But as they drove through Houston's busy streets, something shifted between them. The awkwardness of the previous night faded as they fell into the easy rhythm of their old conversations. What happened with Vanessa? Nia finally asked. You said you never married her. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. After you left, I realized I couldn't go through with it. It wouldn't have been fair to her marrying her when my heart was elsewhere. I'm sure that went over well. About as well as you'd expect. His smile was wry. Her father pulled his investment from Thorn Designs. We nearly went under that first year. Nia turned to him in surprise. I had no idea. It forced me to rebuild the company my way. No more relying on family connections or old money. I wanted to create something I could be proud of. He glanced at her. Something that would make a certain someone proud if she ever came back into my life. Nia's heart skipped. Marcus, I'm not asking for anything, Nia. His voice was gentle. I just want you to know that I've changed. The man who was too afraid to speak his heart 3 years ago, he's gone. They pulled up to her apartment building just as the first heavy raindrops began to fall. Marcus insisted on walking her to the door, holding his jacket over both their heads as they hurried through the downpour. At her doorstep, they stood facing each other, rain dripping from his makeshift shelter. Thank you for the ride, Nia said softly, and for the teacup. Thank you for not throwing it at me. His smile was playful, reminiscent of their late-night conversations. A loud crack of thunder made Nia jump, instinctively moving closer to him. For a heartbeat, they stood inches apart, the air between them charged with more than just the approaching storm. I should go inside, she whispered. Marcus nodded, but neither of them moved. His eyes dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes, asking a silent question. The door behind them suddenly opened, revealing James. Thought I heard voices, he said, looking between them with barely concealed amusement. You might want to come inside before you both drown. The moment broken, Nia stepped back. Good night, Marcus. Sweet dreams, Nia. His voice was low, meant only for her. As she closed the door, Nia leaned against it, her heart racing. Outside, the storm raged, but it was nothing compared to the tempest of emotions swirling inside her. Across town, in the offices of Thorn Designs, Diana Peterson sat at her desk, frowning at her computer screen. As Marcus's executive assistant for the past 2 years, she prided herself on anticipating his needs and protecting his interests. And what she just discovered about Nia Caldwell set off every alarm bell she had. Diana picked up her phone and dialed a familiar number. Ms. Morgan, it's Diana Peterson from Thorn Designs. I think there's something you should know about Marcus's newest project. On the other end of the line, Vanessa Morgan smiled. I'm listening. The next morning, Nia arrived at Rosie's diner to find an envelope with her name on it, propped against the coffee machine. Special delivery, Rosie said, eyeing her curiously. That handsome man in the expensive suit dropped it off before we opened, said it was important. Nia's fingers trembled slightly as she opened the envelope. Inside was a business card for Thorn Designs and a handwritten note. A position has opened in our office. The job is yours if you want it. No strings attached. Marcus. Good news? Rosie asked, watching Nia's expression. A job offer. Nia tucked the note into her pocket. At Thorn Designs. Rosie whistled. Fancy. You gonna take it? Nia tied her apron around her waist. I already have 2 jobs. Honey, you're working yourself to the bone driving that cab at night. This could be your chance for something better. Rosie patted her shoulder. Just think about it. Throughout her shift, Nia couldn't stop thinking about Marcus's offer. A position at Thorn Designs would mean a steady paycheck, benefits, regular hours, everything she'd been working toward. But accepting felt like admitting she needed his help, like crossing a line she wasn't sure she could uncross. By the time she got home, Nia had made up her mind. She would decline politely but firmly. She and Marcus could be friends, maybe, but she wouldn't become dependent on him. James was at the kitchen table surrounded by textbooks when she walked in. Hey, he said, looking up. There's leftover pizza in the fridge. Nia grabbed a slice and sat across from him. How was class? Good. James hesitated, then pulled out a folder. I did something today. Don't be mad. Nia narrowed her eyes. What did you do? I applied for the internship at Thorn Designs. He pushed the folder toward her. They're having an open application day. I stood in line for 3 hours. James, before you say anything, he interrupted, I didn't use Marcus's name. I didn't even mention knowing him. I applied just like everyone else. Nia's protest died on her lips. Why didn't you tell me you were doing this? Because I knew you'd try to talk me out of it. James looked at her earnestly. This is a huge opportunity, Nia. The kind that could change everything for me. For us. Nia reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I'm proud of you. I just don't want you to get hurt. By not getting the internship or by getting involved with Marcus Thorne's company? Both, Nia admitted. James smiled. I'm a big boy now, sis. I can handle disappointment if it comes, but I've got a good feeling about this. Later that night, as Nia prepared for her cab shift, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Did you get my note? She typed back. Yes. Thank you, but I have to decline. His response came quickly. Can I ask why? Nia hesitated, then replied, I don't want to be a charity case. 3 dots appeared as he typed, then, it's not charity. It's recognition of your skills. You're the most organized, efficient person I know. The position is office manager. You'd be perfect for it. Before she could respond, another text arrived. Just think about it. That's all I ask. Nia put her phone away and headed out, her mind still turning over the offer as she picked up her first fare of the night. Across town, in the elegant high-rise apartment of Vanessa Morgan, Diana Peterson sat perched on the edge of a white leather sofa, a glass of wine in her hand. So she just disappeared? Vanessa asked, swirling her own wine thoughtfully. Without a word? According to what I could find, yes, Diana confirmed. She worked as the live-in maid at the Thorne estate, then resigned suddenly about 3 years ago. Vanessa's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her glass. Around the time Marcus broke our engagement. Exactly. Diana leaned forward. And now she's back and he's been acting different, distracted. He's never like this with clients or projects. No, he wouldn't be. Vanessa's smile was cold. Marcus always was a romantic at heart, despite that icy exterior. It was one of the things I found most amusing about him. So what do we do? Diana asked. The board is already nervous about the Thompson project. If Marcus is distracted, leave Marcus to me. Vanessa set down her glass. We were almost engaged once. I still know which buttons to push. And the girl. Vanessa's eyes hardened. Find out everything about her. Every debt, every dream, every weakness. Everyone has a price, Diana. We just need to figure out what hers is. The next morning, Nia was surprised to find Marcus waiting outside Rosie's diner again, leaning against his car. This is becoming a habit, she said, approaching him cautiously. Only until you agree to have dinner with me again. His smile was warm. Properly this time, without your brother as a buffer. Nia crossed her arms. Is this about the job? No. Marcus pushed away from the car, closing the distance between them. This is about us, Nia. About giving whatever this is between us a real chance. There is no us, Marcus. But even as she said the words, Nia knew they weren't entirely true. There could be. His voice softened. Have dinner with me tonight. Just dinner. Nia looked up at him, at the sincerity in his eyes, and felt her resolve weakening. I have my cab shift. Take 1 night off. Marcus reached for her hand, his fingers barely brushing hers. Please. The gentle touch sent warmth spreading through her. Fine. 1 dinner. His smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. I'll pick you up at 7. As Marcus drove away, Rosie appeared beside Nia, wiping her hands on her apron. That man is smitten, she observed, and unless I'm going blind in my old age, so are you. Nia sighed. It's complicated, Rosie. Love always is, honey. The older woman patted her shoulder, but sometimes the complicated ones are worth fighting for. That evening, Nia found herself standing in front of her closet, staring at her limited wardrobe with increasing frustration. Nothing seemed right for dinner with one of Houston's most eligible bachelors. Wear the blue dress, James suggested from the doorway. The one Grandma gave you for your birthday. Nia pulled out the simple navy dress she'd only worn once before. It wasn't designer, but the cut was flattering, and the color brought out her eyes. You're sure it's not too plain? James smiled. If he cares about designer labels, he's not worth your time anyway. By the time Marcus knocked on their door at 7, Nia's nerves were stretched tight. James gave her an encouraging thumbs up before disappearing into his room, leaving her to answer the door alone. Marcus stood on the threshold, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. He'd traded his usual business suit for dark jeans and a crisp button-down shirt, looking more relaxed than Nia had ever seen him. You look beautiful, he said simply, his eyes taking her in with undisguised appreciation. Nia felt her cheeks warm. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. He handed her the flowers with a smile. These reminded me of you. Beautiful without trying to be. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched her more than an expensive arrangement would have. Nia invited him in while she put the flowers in water, aware of his eyes following her movements. Your home is lovely, Marcus said, looking around the small apartment with genuine interest. It's nothing special, Nia replied, feeling suddenly self-conscious about the worn furniture and faded wallpaper. It feels like a home. Marcus ran his hand along the bookshelf filled with family photos. Mine never did, until recently. There was something vulnerable in his admission that made Nia's heart twist. She remembered the cold formality of the Thorne mansion, how everything had been for show rather than comfort. Ready to go? She asked, changing the subject. Marcus drove them to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't the upscale establishment Nia had expected, but a cozy, family-owned place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. I thought about taking you somewhere fancy, Marcus admitted as they were seated in a corner booth, but this place has the best pasta in Houston. I discovered it after I left the family estate. You left the estate? Nia asked, surprised. Marcus nodded. After you disappeared, I couldn't stay there. Too many memories. I bought the house in River Oaks and started fresh. As they shared a bottle of wine and plates of homemade pasta, the tension between them gradually melted away. They talked about everything and nothing, books they'd read, places they wanted to visit, memories of their time at the estate. It felt like those midnight conversations in the library, but with a new openness that hadn't existed before. Why did you never stop looking for me? Nia finally asked the question that had been on her mind since their reunion. Marcus's expression grew serious. Because the moment you left, I realized what I should have told you that night before Vanessa interrupted us. And what was that? That you made me feel alive. His eyes held hers. That for the first time in my life, someone saw me. Not the Thorne heir, not the CEO, just me. Nia's heart pounded. Marcus, you don't have to say anything. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. I just want a chance, Nia. A chance to see if what we started 3 years ago could grow into something real. The warmth of his hand, the sincerity in his eyes. Nia felt the walls around her heart beginning to crumble. I'm scared, she admitted softly. Of what? Of this. Of us. She looked down at their joined hands. We come from different worlds, Marcus. We come from the same world. His voice was gentle but firm. The one where two people connect over tea at midnight, where conversations matter more than bank accounts, where someone can see past all the trappings to who you really are. When he put it like that, their differences seemed less important. The evening passed in a warm glow of rediscovered connection, and by the time Marcus drove her home, Nia felt lighter than she had in years. At her door, they lingered, neither wanting the night to end. Thank you for tonight, Nia said softly. Will you have dinner with me again? Marcus asked, his hand still holding hers. Nia smiled. Yes. Marcus stepped closer, his free hand coming up to gently touch her cheek. May I kiss you goodnight? Her heart racing, Nia nodded. The kiss was soft, sweet, a gentle promise of possibilities. When they pulled apart, Nia saw in Marcus's eyes everything he'd left unsaid, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could build something real together. Good night, Marcus, she whispered. Sweet dreams, Nia. As Marcus drove home, he couldn't stop smiling. After 3 years of searching, of wondering what might have been, Nia was back in his life. The kiss they'd shared had been everything he'd imagined, and more. He felt like a teenager again, giddy with possibility. His phone buzzed with a text from Diana. Emergency at the office. Thompson contract issues. Need you ASAP. Marcus frowned. The Thompson Brothers downtown development was Thorn Design's biggest project of the year. Any problems could spell disaster for the company. At the office, he found Diana waiting, a stack of documents on her desk. What's the emergency? Marcus asked, his mind still half on Nia. The Thompsons are threatening to pull out. Diana handed him a folder. They're saying another firm has offered them a better deal. Marcus flipped through the documents, his frown deepening. These are preliminary designs. How did they get leaked? I don't know. Diana looked troubled. But there's more. Vanessa Morgan called earlier. Her father's investment group is interested in backing the project if the Thompsons walk. Marcus's head snapped up. Vanessa, after all this time? She said she wants to put the past behind you both. Diana's expression was carefully neutral. It would solve the financial issues if the Thompsons back out. I'll handle this myself, Marcus said firmly. Set up a meeting with the Thompsons for tomorrow morning. And Diana? No more contact with Vanessa or her father without going through me first. Diana nodded, but something in her eyes made Marcus uneasy. As he walked to his office, he couldn't shake the feeling that these sudden problems with the Thompson contract weren't a coincidence. The next morning, Nia woke to a text from Marcus. Business emergency. Rain check on lunch. We'll call later. Disappointment washed over her, but she understood. Marcus had a company to run, responsibilities that wouldn't wait. She texted back a simple, "Of course," and tried not to read too much into it. At Rosie's diner, Nia moved through her shift mechanically, her mind elsewhere. The night before had been magical, the kind of evening she'd only dreamed about during those lonely years after leaving the Thorn estate. "Order up for table 7, Rosie called, sliding a plate across the counter. As Nia turned with the order, she nearly collided with a tall, elegant woman in a designer suit. "Excuse me," Nia said, stepping aside. The woman smiled, a cold curve of perfect lips. "No harm done. I'm looking for the owner?" "That would be me," Rosie said, approaching from behind the counter. "Rosie Miller, how can I help you?" "Vanessa Morgan." The woman extended a manicured hand. "I represent Morgan Investments. We're interested in discussing a potential opportunity with you." Nia froze at the name. Vanessa Morgan, Marcus's almost fiancée, the woman whose cruel words had driven her away 3 years ago. "I'll let you two talk business," Nia said quickly, moving toward table 7. "Actually," Vanessa's voice stopped her. "You might want to hear this too, Nia." The fact that Vanessa knew her name sent a chill down Nia's spine. She turned slowly, meeting the other woman's calculated gaze. "You remember me," Vanessa observed. "Good. That will make this easier." "Make what easier?" Rosie asked, looking between them with confusion. "My company is purchasing this building," Vanessa announced. "We have plans to develop the entire block into a luxury residential complex." Rosie's face paled. "This diner has been here for 30 years. My lease will be terminated with appropriate notice, of course." Vanessa's smile never reached her eyes. "But I'm not unreasonable. I'm prepared to offer a generous relocation package. Enough for you to retire comfortably if you wish." Nia stepped forward. "What does this have to do with me?" Vanessa turned to her, cold amusement dancing in her eyes. "Nothing at all. I just thought you might be interested, given your renewed connection with Marcus Thorn." The implication was clear. Vanessa knew about Nia and Marcus, and she wasn't happy about it. "If you'll excuse me," Nia said tightly, "I have customers waiting." As she walked away, she heard Vanessa say to Rosie, "Take some time to think about my offer, but not too long. Development plans wait for no one." Throughout the rest of her shift, Nia's mind raced. It couldn't be a coincidence that Vanessa Morgan had appeared at Rosie's diner the day after her dinner with Marcus. Someone had told her. But who? And why now? When her shift ended, Nia found Rosie sitting alone in her small office, staring at a business card. "You okay?" Nia asked softly. Rosie looked up, her usually cheerful face lined with worry. 30 years in this place. Raised my kids working these tables, and now some fancy investor wants to tear it down for luxury apartments nobody around here can afford." Nia sat beside her, taking her hand. "Maybe there's something we can do." "Like what?" "I can't fight people with that kind of money." Rosie sighed. "And the offer she made? It's a lot of money, Nia. More than I'd make in 10 years of running this place. Don't make any decisions yet, Nia urged. Let me talk to someone first. Rosie gave her a knowing look. Your fancy man with the flowers? He might be able to help. Nia wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do, involving Marcus in this, but she couldn't stand by and watch Rosie lose everything. Outside the diner, Nia called Marcus, but the call went straight to voicemail. She texted instead, "Need to talk. Important. It's about Vanessa Morgan." Within minutes, her phone rang. What about Vanessa? Marcus's voice was tense. Nia explained quickly about Vanessa's visit to the diner, the development plans, the thinly veiled threat. She knows about us, Nia finished. Someone told her. The silence on the other end of the line was telling. Marcus, are you there? I'm here. His voice had a controlled quality that Nia recognized from their days at the estate, the tone he used when he was truly angry, but hiding it. This explains a lot. The Thompson contract problems, Diana's behavior, it's all connected. What are you going to do? First, I'm going to find out exactly what Vanessa is planning. Then I'm going to stop it. His voice softened slightly. Don't worry about Rosie's diner. I won't let anything happen to it. After they hung up, Nia headed home, her mind still churning. She hadn't asked for Marcus's help for herself, but for Rosie. Yet now she was pulled into exactly the kind of situation she'd feared, trapped between the wealthy power players of Houston, a pawn in their games. At home, she found James sitting at the kitchen table, an odd expression on his face. What's wrong? She asked, immediately concerned. He held up an envelope. I got a call today, from Thorn Designs. Nia's heart sank. About the internship? James nodded. I got it. Full scholarship, plus a stipend. That's wonderful. Nia moved to hug him, but he pulled back. Is it? His eyes met hers, troubled. Or did your boyfriend pull strings to get me in? Marcus wouldn't do that, Nia said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Would he? After their dinner, after that kiss? I wanted to earn this, Nia. James's voice was tight with emotion. On my own merit, not because the boss has a thing for my sister. Before Nia could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Meet me at River Oaks Coffee House in 30 minutes. Need to talk in person. Nia looked from the text to her brother's disappointed face. I have to go out. But this conversation isn't over, James. We'll figure this out, I promise. At the coffee house, Marcus was waiting at a corner table, his expression grim. He stood when he saw her, pulling out her chair. Thank you for coming, he said, his voice low. What's happening? Nia asked, cutting straight to the point. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration she remembered from their library conversations. Vanessa's father is trying to take over Thorn Designs. The Thompson contract issues, the sudden interest in properties around your diner. It's all part of a larger plan. But why now? Nia frowned. It's been 3 years since you broke your engagement. Because of you. Marcus reached across the table, taking her hand. Diana has been feeding Vanessa information. She told her about us, about how I've been looking for you all this time. And that matters to Vanessa because pride, mainly. Marcus's thumb traced circles on her palm. I chose you over her once before. She never forgave that humiliation. Nia tried to process this. So this is all about revenge. Destroying your company, threatening Rosie's livelihood, just to get back at us. Partly revenge, partly business. Marcus's expression darkened. The Morgans have wanted to absorb Thorn Designs for years. My relationship with you gives Vanessa leverage she didn't have before. What kind of leverage? Marcus hesitated, then met her eyes directly. She came to see me today, made an offer. She'll back off from Rosie's diner, drop her bid on the Thompson contract and leave my company alone. In exchange for what? For me to end things with you. His grip on her hand tightened. And to announce my engagement to her within the month. Nia felt as if all the air had been sucked from her lungs. And what did you say? I told her to go to hell. Marcus's voice was fierce. I lost you once because I was too afraid to fight for what I wanted. I won't make that mistake again. Relief washed over Nia, followed quickly by fear. But your company, I'll find another way. His eyes held hers. But there's something else you should know. About your brother's internship. Nia's stomach dropped. Did you? No. Marcus shook his head firmly. I specifically instructed the hiring committee not to give him any special treatment. He earned that spot, Nia, on his own merit. Tears of relief stung Nia's eyes. Thank you for that. I would never undermine his accomplishments that way. Marcus squeezed her hand. Or yours. In that moment, looking into his eyes, Nia made a decision. The job offer you mentioned, is it still available? Marcus blinked in surprise. Yes, of course. Then I accept. Nia took a deep breath. Not because I need saving, but because it's a good opportunity, and because I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions for me. A slow smile spread across Marcus's face. You won't regret it. I have conditions, Nia warned. No special treatment. I start at the bottom like anyone else, and our personal relationship stays separate from work. Agreed. Marcus lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Though I can't promise not to smile every time I see you in the hallway. As they left the coffee house hand in hand, Nia felt both terrified and exhilarated. She was stepping into a new chapter, one filled with uncertainty, but also with possibilities she'd never allowed herself to imagine. What she didn't see was the sleek black car parked across the street, or the woman inside it watching them with cold, calculating eyes. Vanessa Morgan picked up her phone and dialed. I turned down my offer. Time for plan B. She paused, listening. Yes, all of it. Start with the brother. She ended the call, her gaze never leaving the couple as they walked to Marcus's car. Enjoy it while it lasts, she murmured, because by this time next week, your perfect little world will be in ruins. 2 weeks after accepting the position at Thorn Designs, Nia settled into her new role as office manager. The work was challenging but fulfilling, a welcome change from the physical demands of waitressing and cab driving. For the first time in years, she had weekends off and enough energy to actually enjoy them. True to his word, Marcus maintained a professional distance at work. To most of the staff, she was simply Ms. Caldwell, the efficient new manager who had whipped the front office into shape with remarkable speed. Only Diana Peterson, Marcus's executive assistant, treated her with barely concealed contempt. Mr. Thorne needs these reports by 3, Diana said coldly, dropping a stack of folders on Nia's desk. I'll make sure he gets them, Nia replied evenly, refusing to be intimidated. As Diana walked away, Nia sighed. She knew the woman was still feeding information to Vanessa, but Marcus had asked her to be patient. He was gathering evidence before confronting Diana directly. The phone on her desk rang. Thorn Designs, this is Nia Caldwell. Nia, it's James. Her brother's voice sounded strained. I need to talk to you. Can you meet me for lunch? Something in his tone set off alarm bells. What's wrong? Not over the phone. Please, just meet me at Carson's Deli in 20 minutes. I'll be there, Nia promised, already reaching for her purse. At the deli, she found James huddled in a corner booth, his usual easy confidence replaced by nervous energy. His eyes darted around the restaurant as if looking for someone. What's going on? Nia asked, sliding into the seat across from him. James pushed a manila envelope across the table. I was approached by a woman yesterday, said her name was Vanessa Morgan. Nia's stomach dropped. What did she want? She offered me money. James's voice was tight with anger. A lot of money, to drop the internship and leave Houston. She did what? Nia's hands clenched into fists. There's more. James tapped the envelope. She gave me this. Said if I didn't take her offer, she'd make sure these photos were sent to every board member at Thorn Designs. With trembling fingers, Nia opened the envelope. Inside were photographs of her and Marcus, leaving his house, having dinner, kissing on her doorstep. Along with them was a document detailing her employment history, her financial struggles, even her grandmother's medical bills. She's trying to make it look like you slept your way into the company, James said bluntly, and like I only got the internship because of you. Nia felt sick. Did you take her money? Of course not. James looked offended at the mere suggestion. I told her I earned my spot, and so did you. Relief washed over her. Thank you for telling me. What are we going to do? James asked. She said I have until tomorrow to reconsider. Nia squared her shoulders. We're going to fight back. But first I need to talk to Marcus. Back at Thorn Designs, Nia headed straight for Marcus's office, the envelope clutched in her hand. She was so focused on her mission that she didn't notice Diana watching her with a smug smile. Marcus was on the phone when she entered, but one look at her face had him quickly ending the call. What happened? He asked, rising from his desk. Wordlessly, Nia handed him the envelope. She watched his expression darken as he examined its contents. Vanessa approached James, she explained, tried to bribe him to leave the internship. When he refused, she threatened to send these to the board. Marcus's jaw tightened. She's gone too far. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Nia said, pacing the office. My past being used against me, James getting caught in the crossfire. Your past is nothing to be ashamed of, Marcus said firmly. I know that. Nia stopped pacing to face him. But the board might not see it that way. They'll see a former maid who's now sleeping with the CEO. Are you? Marcus asked quietly. Nia blinked. Am I what? Sleeping with the CEO. His eyes held hers. Because we haven't actually discussed what we are to each other, Nia. Not clearly. Despite the tension of the moment, Nia felt a small smile tug at her lips. Really? You want to have this conversation now? I want to have it before I go to war with Vanessa Morgan. Marcus moved closer, taking her hands in his. Because I need you to know exactly what I'm fighting for. Nia's heart raced as he continued. I'm in love with you, Nia Caldwell. Marcus's voice was low and intense. I think I've been in love with you since those nights in the library, when you looked at me and saw past all the trappings to the man underneath. And I don't care who knows it. The board, Vanessa, the whole city of Houston. Tears pricked at Nia's eyes. Marcus, if you don't feel the same way, tell me now. His grip on her hands tightened slightly. But know that I'll still fight Vanessa. I'll still protect you and James from her schemes, because that's what you do for the people you care about. Nia reached up, cupping his face in her palm. I fell in love with you over cups of tea and conversations about dreams, and I've fallen in love with you all over again these past weeks, watching you fight for what matters to you. Of course I feel the same way. The kiss they shared was different from their others. Deeper, more certain, a promise sealed between them. When they broke apart, Marcus pressed his forehead to hers. Then let's end this. Together. He reached for his phone, pressing a button. Diana, come in here, please. And bring the Morgan file. Diana entered moments later, her expression carefully neutral until she spotted Nia. Sir, this is a confidential matter. Sit down, Diana. Marcus's tone left no room for argument. As Diana perched uneasily on a chair, Marcus laid out the photographs from the envelope. Did you take these? Diana's eyes widened in feigned innocence. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Marcus's voice was steel. I know you've been feeding information to Vanessa for weeks. What I don't know is why. A flash of defiance crossed Diana's face. Because you're ruining everything you built. 3 years of rebuilding this company's reputation, and you throw it all away for her. She gestured dismissively at Nia. For love, Marcus corrected calmly. Something Vanessa convinced you I wasn't capable of, I imagine. Diana looked away, confirming his suspicion. What did she promise you? Marcus pressed. A better position, more money, a partnership, Diana admitted finally. In the new firm, after the merger. Marcus nodded as if he'd expected this. A merger that was never going to happen. Vanessa doesn't want to merge with Thorn Designs. She wants to destroy it, and you helped her. Guilt flickered across Diana's face. She said no one would get hurt. Tell that to Rosie Miller, whose diner is being threatened, or to James Caldwell, who was offered a bribe to leave a position he earned on merit. Marcus's voice hardened. Pack your things, Diana. Security will escort you out. As Diana fled the office, Marcus turned to Nia. That's one problem solved. Now for Vanessa. What are you going to do? Nia asked. Marcus smiled grimly. Something I should have done years ago. Call her bluff. That evening, Marcus invited the entire board of Thorn Designs to an emergency meeting. Nia sat beside him at the head of the conference table, nervous but determined. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, Marcus began. I've called you here to address some rumors that may soon come to your attention. He proceeded to tell them everything, about his relationship with Nia years ago when she worked at the estate, about their recent reconnection, about Vanessa's attempts at sabotage and blackmail. Ms. Caldwell was hired because she's the most qualified person for the job, he finished. Her brother earned his internship on merit alone. Any suggestion otherwise is not only false, but defamatory. The board members exchanged glances. Finally, Harold Jenkins, the eldest member, spoke up. Marcus, I've known you since you were in short pants. Your father would be proud of the man you've become. He turned to Nia with a kind smile. Ms. Caldwell, your work these past weeks speaks for itself. As far as I'm concerned, your personal relationship with our CEO is your business, not ours. Relief washed over Nia as the other board members nodded in agreement. As for Vanessa Morgan, Jenkins continued, his voice hardening, her father and I go way back. I'll be having a word with him about his daughter's behavior. Marcus squeezed Nia's hand under the table. Thank you, Harold. There's one more thing. I've prepared documentation of Vanessa's attempts to sabotage our Thompson contract. I intend to pursue legal action unless she withdraws completely. The board supports you fully, Jenkins assured him. Now, I believe that concludes our business for tonight. After the board members filed out, Nia turned to Marcus with wide eyes. That went better than I expected. Harold's daughter worked as a housekeeper to put herself through college, Marcus explained with a smile. He has no patience for elitism. Nia leaned her head against his shoulder. One problem down. Two, actually. Marcus kissed the top of her head. I spoke with the Thompsons this afternoon. They're staying with us, and they want you to be part of the design team meetings. They were impressed by your organizational skills at the presentation last week. Me? Nia looked up in surprise. I just brought coffee and took notes. You also suggested the community garden for the rooftop, which they loved. Marcus's eyes shone with pride. You have good instincts, Nia. Always have. The next day, Nia received a text from an unknown number. Coffee. 4 o'clock. Valerie's on Main. Come alone. V. She showed it to Marcus, who frowned. You're not going. Yes, I am. Nia's voice was firm. This ends today, one way or another. Then I'm coming with you. Nia shook her head. She said alone. And I need to do this myself, Marcus. For 3 years I let her words drive me away from you, from happiness. I won't give her that power again. Though clearly reluctant, Marcus nodded. Call me the second you leave. I'll be waiting nearby. Valerie's was a high-end coffee shop in the business district, the kind of place where deals were made over $15 lattes. Nia spotted Vanessa immediately, perfectly poised at a corner table, her designer outfit worth more than Nia's monthly salary. You came, Vanessa observed as Nia slid into the seat across from her. Alone, as requested. I'm impressed. What do you want, Vanessa? Nia asked bluntly. Direct. I like that. Vanessa smiled coldly. What I want is simple. Marcus Thorne, broken and humiliated just like I was. That was 3 years ago, Nia pointed out. Most people would have moved on by now. I'm not most people. Vanessa sipped her coffee. And revenge is a dish best served cold, wouldn't you agree? I wouldn't know. Nia met her gaze steadily. I don't waste my time on revenge. Vanessa laughed, a brittle sound. How noble. Is that what you told yourself when you ran away? That you were being noble, not cowardly? The barb struck home, but Nia refused to show it. I made a mistake 3 years ago, letting your words drive me away. I won't make that mistake again. No? Vanessa leaned forward. Not even to save your little family, your brother's future, that charming old diner where you worked? Are you threatening me? Nia asked, her voice ice cold. I'm offering you a choice. Vanessa placed a check on the table between them. $1 million, cash, tax-free. All you have to do is disappear again. Leave Houston, leave Marcus. Nia stared at the check, at the number of zeros it contained. It was more money than she'd ever imagined having, enough to pay off her grandmother's medical debts, enough to send James to any university he wanted, enough for a fresh start somewhere new. 3 years ago, she might have taken it. 3 years ago, she'd been young and afraid, too quick to believe she didn't belong in Marcus's world. But she wasn't that girl anymore. Nia pushed the check back across the table. No. Vanessa's perfect eyebrows rose. No? Perhaps you don't understand how much money this is. I understand exactly how much it is. Nia's voice was steady, and it's not enough. Not for my self-respect. Not for the life I'm building here. And certainly not for walking away from the man I love. Love? Vanessa scoffed. How quaint. Do you really think it will last, that the novelty won't wear off, that one day he won't wake up and realize you're still just the help? That's the difference between you and me, Vanessa. Nia stood up, gathering her purse. You never saw the real Marcus. Just his name, his money, his status. I saw the man who drinks tea with honey at midnight and dreams of designing homes people love to live in, not just admire from a distance. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. The board knows everything about your blackmail attempts, your sabotage of the Thompson contract, all of it. Mr. Jenkins is having a chat with your father as we speak. For the first time, Vanessa's composure slipped. You're bluffing. Am I? Nia smiled. Goodbye, Vanessa. I genuinely hope you find happiness someday. It's much more satisfying than revenge. Outside the coffee shop, Nia's hands trembled as the adrenaline of the confrontation wore off. She pulled out her phone to call Marcus, but before she could dial, a familiar car pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down to reveal Marcus's anxious face. I couldn't stay away, he admitted, as she slid into the passenger seat. How did it go? She offered me $1 million to leave Houston. Nia watched his expression carefully. To leave you. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. And I told her no. Nia reached over to touch his arm. Because some things are worth more than money. The relief in his eyes was all the confirmation she needed that she'd made the right choice. "What now?" she asked as they pulled into traffic. "Now," Marcus glanced at her with a smile, "now we build something real. Together." 1 month later, Nia stood in Rosie's diner after closing, surrounded by paint swatches and fabric samples. The renovation was Marcus's idea, a partnership between Thorn Designs and Rosie herself to update the diner while preserving its charm. "I still can't believe this is happening," Rosie said, examining a blueprint spread across the counter. "A whole new kitchen, new booths, and I still get to keep my diner." "Believe it," Nia smiled, arranging color samples. The Thompsons were thrilled to add this to their community revitalization project. No luxury condos, just improved local businesses. The bell above the door jingled as James entered, his Thorn Designs intern badge hanging around his neck. "Sorry I'm late," he called, joining them at the counter. "Design meeting ran long." "How's the internship going?" Rosie asked, pouring him a cup of coffee. James grinned. "Amazing, I'm learning so much and they're letting me sit in on actual client meetings now." "Because you earned it," Nia said proudly. The door opened again, and Marcus walked in, looking tired but content after a long day. He greeted Rosie and James before dropping a kiss on Nia's cheek. "The contractor's confirmed for Monday," he told Rosie. "We'll have you back in business within 3 weeks." "Bless you, young man," Rosie patted his arm. "You're one of the good ones." As they discussed final details for the renovation, Nia watched Marcus with a warm heart. In the month since their confrontation with Vanessa, so much had changed. The Thompson project was proceeding smoothly. James was thriving in his internship, and she and Marcus were building something strong and real, day by day. They weren't rushing. 3 nights a week she still drove her cab, not because she needed to financially anymore, but because she enjoyed the freedom of the open road, the interesting people she met. Marcus often rode along on Friday nights, the two of them exploring Houston's hidden corners together. "Penny for your thoughts?" Marcus asked, coming to stand beside her as Rosie and James debated wallpaper patterns. "Just thinking about how much has changed," Nia said softly. "A few months ago I was just trying to survive each day. Now? Marcus prompted, his eyes warm. "Now, I'm building a future." She smiled up at him. "With people I love." Later that night, Marcus drove Nia home through a light spring rain. They'd fallen into a comfortable routine, dinner together most evenings, weekends spent between his house and her apartment, each giving the other space when needed. "Stay for tea?" Nia asked as they pulled up to her building. Marcus smiled. "Always." In her small kitchen, they moved around each other with practiced ease, Nia filling the kettle, Marcus retrieving the honey from the cabinet. It reminded her of those nights in the library, but with a new sense of permanence, of belonging. "I have something for you," Marcus said, as they settled on her worn sofa, steaming mugs in hand. "What's the occasion?" Nia asked. "No occasion." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Just something I've been working on." Nia unfolded it carefully. It was a sketch, beautifully rendered. A house with clean, modern lines, but a warmth to it that spoke of home rather than showcase. At the top, in Marcus's precise handwriting, was her name. "A house?" she asked, confusion giving way to understanding as she took in the details. The large kitchen she'd always dreamed of, the reading nook by the window, the garden space out back. "A home," Marcus corrected softly. "For us, if you'll let me build it, with you in it." Nia looked up, meeting his gaze. In his eyes she saw everything she'd ever wanted. Respect, partnership, love without conditions. "Yes," she whispered, setting aside the sketch to frame his face with her hands. "Yes to the house. Yes to building it together. Yes to everything." As their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home, Nia knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Not because Marcus had rescued her, but because they had found their way back to each other. Two people who saw past the surface to what truly mattered. Outside, the rain washed the city clean, a fresh start for a new day. Inside, wrapped in each other's arms, Nia and Marcus planned their future, one tender moment at a time. 3 months later, on a warm summer evening, Marcus stood in the center of a construction site watching as Nia explained her ideas for the kitchen layout to the contractor. The foundation of their home had been poured, walls beginning to take shape. James approached, handing Marcus a bottle of water. "She's really getting into this, isn't she?" Marcus smiled fondly. "She has a natural eye for design. The team at the office thinks she's a genius." "That's my sister." James's voice held pride. "Always surprising people." As they watched Nia gesture enthusiastically about counterspace, Marcus felt a sense of rightness settle over him. This was what he'd been searching for all those years, not just Nia herself, but the feeling of genuine connection, of building something meaningful with someone who saw him clearly. "James," Marcus said suddenly, "I want to ask your sister to marry me." James grinned. "About time. Grandma's ring is in my dresser drawer. She always wanted Nia to have it when the right man came along." "You think I'm the right man?" Marcus asked, unexpectedly nervous. "I know you are." James clasped his shoulder. "Because you don't just love her. You respect her, and that's what she deserves." Later that night, as sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and pink, Marcus and Nia stood on what would eventually be their back porch, overlooking the city lights beginning to twinkle in the distance. "It's going to be beautiful," Nia said, leaning against him. "It already is." Marcus turned her to face him. "Nia, when you disappeared 3 years ago, it felt like the light went out of my world. Finding you again, it was like coming home to a place I didn't even know I was missing." Nia's eyes softened. "Marcus," he took her hands in his, "I don't want to waste another day not telling you exactly how I feel. I love you. I want to build not just this house with you, but a life, a family, a future." Dropping to one knee, he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a simple vintage ring, her grandmother's, Nia realized with a gasp. "Nia Caldwell, will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, yes, with all my heart." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Marcus felt the last piece of his heart slide into place. This was what he'd been searching for all along. Not success or status, but love, real love, built on respect and understanding. Nia looked down at the ring sparkling on her finger, then back at the man who had driven her home on a rainy night and changed her life forever. "Full circle," she whispered. "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, drawing her close. "That night in your cab," she explained, "I was driving you home. Now you've driven me home. To you." As their lips met in a kiss that sealed their promise, the first stars appeared overhead. Below them, the foundation of their new home stood strong and ready, just like the love they'd built together, brick by brick, day by day, finding their way back to where they were always meant to be, in each other's arms. Home at last.